The legendary match where Team Isagi, Nagi and Barou went up against Reo, Chigiri and Kunigami is just about to begin as Isagi passes the ball over to Barou and the match has now started. Isagi passes Barou and thinks that a chemical reaction with Barou will be the key to deciding this match. However, just then, we see Kunigami going to cover Barou and he tells him that he will drag Barou off his throne. Barou just tells him to try it and smashes into his chest. Barou asks Kunigami if he thinks that he can stop him, but Kunigami suddenly backs off a bit, and Barou asks him what he is afraid of, but Kunigami tells him to come closer. Isagi, who is looking at this, is confused and wonders what Kunigami's plan is. Kunigami then says that it's impossible to stop Barou to 100% and that he will be pouring everything into stopping his shots. And Isagi then realizes that they know about Barou's weapon, the 27-meter extreme range middle shot, and that this man marking is specialized in not letting him get into that range. Thinking that they deemed it impossible to stop all of Barou's dribbling charges, so they'll not follow him, dribbles to the outer field, calling it a guard focused on blocking him from getting into middle shot range. Isagi says that it's an anti-Barou marking that makes use of Kunigami's physique. We then get to Kunigami, who says that he can only barely stop him after all. Anyway, Isagi then arrives by him and tells him to pass, telling Barou that they can get through with a 1-2, but Barou tells him to be silent and that he will get behind Kunigami by himself. Nagi says that Barou is seriously so self-centered and asks Isagi what to do. Isagi tells Nagi to back off and keep himself in the enemy line, and that he will compensate for Barou and somehow connect the path forward. But just then, Reo comes by him and asks him what he can even do. Reo tells him to brace himself, and he looks intense as he says that Nagi is a treasure he found and that with this match, he will steal him back from Isagi. Isagi just wonders what Ryo's problem is before telling him to go ahead and try. Isagi then once again screams out for Barou to pass and to use him, but just then Reo charges towards Barou and says that of course the king won't pass. Kunigami says that Reo is late, but Reo says that Kunigami endured it well as he came by and stole away the ball from Barou. Barou looks super pissed. Meanwhile, Nagi just says that he told him so. After that, Reo tells Kunigami to come and he says that he is on his way. Isagi, looking at them coming towards him, is a bit amazed by their play just now, but he then snaps back and says that he has no choice but to stop them as he is the final line. He wonders if Reo will come forward or if he will pass to Kunigami. Isagi waits until the last moment to try and read Ryo's decision, and he sees Reo passing, which is great. Isagi was heading to Kunigami. However, as he goes to Kunigami, he realizes that the ball is going above him and that it's actually towards Chigiri. Chigiri compliments Reo, but then Nagi comes by and says that he has caught up to Chigiri, but Chigiri tells him that he only caught up for 1 moment, and he then starts speeding up even more as he tells Nagi to get in his shadow as he runs above him. Nagi can almost not believe his eyes, but he says that Chigiri is way too fast. We also see Isagi on the side saying that their formation was completely destroyed. He looks at Chigiri running with the ball and says that the three of them understands each other's weapons, and by drawing out each other's abilities, they're surpassing Barou and Nagi, thinking that this is Chigiri's, Kunigami's, and Ryo's high-level tri-session. And just as he says that Chigiri scores the first goal of the match with little to no effort, they all look super happy. Meanwhile, Barou looks annoyed, and Nagi says that they are strong and calling them a flawless team. Then his eyes starts to light up and says that suddenly he started to heat up. We also see that it isn't only Nagi, as Isagi's eyes are also going crazy, as he says that suddenly he wants to crush them. Isagi looks at their team and says that they are all strong and that they have their offense and defense super balanced at a high level, calling them a team with no weaknesses, and yet he is shaking to test himself against them, finally realizing that this new Isagi has gotten stronger, and he then starts it off with the ball. He looks at the other team and thinks about blind spots and off-the-ball movements, thinking that he has combined these new pieces, and with his spatial recognition ability, he now has a whole new field vision. He tells himself to be aware of the line of sight of both teammates and enemies, more precisely than ever, and delicately, he can see each individual's play. He looks super ready as he says that the route to the goal that he couldn't see before, they are now overflowing endlessly. Isagi then makes his move as he passes to Barou. He then runs right by Reo and tells him to look over at him, and as he does that, Isagi thinks that the movement of his center of gravity when he looks in his direction means Isagi will then push to the opposite. And now that Isagi has broken free from Reo, he is totally open, and he looks to Barou and wishes for a pass, but Barou just ignores him and runs to Kunigami by himself. Kunigami just smirks and tells him that he is being way too greedy as he steals away the ball from Barou. Barou then falls to the floor, and Isagi is annoyed that Barou lost the ball again. Right then, Nagi screams to Isagi that they are going back and says that he will handle Chigiri if Isagi handles Reo. Isagi says that he already knows, but says that it's bad, as Kunigami is already in his range, and with no one left to guard him, he easily secures a goal for himself and gives his team a 2-goal lead. After that, Nagi goes to Barou and tells him to give it a rest, telling Barou that Isagi was completely free and asks him why he didn't pass. Barou tells him to be silent and asks him why he would pass for someone else to score. Nagi asks Barou if he is stupid and says that there's no point if they don't win. But Barou is still stubborn and says that it has to be with his goal and that Nagi and Isagi should be moving so that he can move more easily. Isagi then tells them to stop it and says that Barou might be totally at fault here, but that he will let it slide for now. After that, Isagi thinks to himself that Nagi and Barou don't mix together at all and that he has to control them. He has to input the new info and find an option that will let him create a chemical reaction with the three of them, telling himself to renew the vision inside of him and that he will lead this team. After that, the match restarts, and Nagi passes the ball to Isagi. But Isagi quickly gets shocked as he sees that when he focuses on finding a vision that lets Barou score a goal, then the pass course towards Barou completely dies out. He knows that this is bad, and that as things are now, a chemical reaction with Barou won't happen, but compared to that, the possibilities for goals come endlessly as he looks towards Nagi as he is moving in a way that lets him catch his movements. Isagi thinks that he has advanced to the level where he can feel and pick up on Nagi's off-the-ball movements, and he then passes a pass towards Nagi. Chigiri, however, sees that it's a fast pass and asks Nagi if he is trying to compete with him. But as the ball is coming closer, Nagi asks Chigiri if he knows that no matter how fast humans are, they aren't able to suddenly go backwards, and Nagi then pulls out this insane-looking trap, and even Isagi is stunned as he says that Nagi did it with a pass that came diagonally from behind and against Chigiri, who was coming at top speed. He trapped the ball in the opposite direction and created a shot course while leaving him behind. Isagi then looks happy as he says that it's a play that went beyond his vision and that this is the chemical reaction between Isagi and Nagi, and just like that Nagi scores and both of them look super hyped up. Kunigami asks if Nagi got better than before, and Reo just looks in pure amazement at this. Nagi then compliments Isagi's pass and says that for now, let's go ahead and win with just the two of them. And Isagi says, alright. But he thinks that with this, they are barely evenly matched, and what's left is the chemical reaction with Barou, and he is sure that if he can make that happen, then he can win this match. Isagi then goes forward to Barou and tells him that as things are now, he doesn't give off the scent of a goal, telling him to move by also thinking of him and Nagi's goals, and that he believes that they can blow life into each other's plays like that, telling him that he wants to make a chemical reaction that can't be done alone. However, Barou just stares at him and asks him how many times it will take for him to say this, but Barou lives with his own goals and says that he would rather die than play for the sake of someone else. Isagi, however, doesn't back down as he says that a pass to Isagi could lead to bringing forth a new option, which could result in Barou scoring. Barou, however, says that the word could isn't good enough and that he wins how he wants to win, and that everything outside that is out of the question. Isagi, however, tells him that they will lose if he is like that, but Barou says that he doesn't mind that at all, as it's better to lose than to win by bending his principles. Isagi then starts to scream, asking why he can't understand that his way of thinking is destroying his possibilities. He tells Barou that he is better than this, explaining that he teamed up with Barou because he thought that he could become an even better player, but Isagi tells him that at this rate he will disappear. This makes Barou mad as he asks him what he just said, telling him that he has all this skill and yet he can't win, and that obviously the most pissed off is himself. Isagi looks confused, but Barou just takes his hand in front of his head and tells Isagi that he sickens him, and explains that everything he tells Barou just sounds like he wants Barou to do as he says, continuing by saying that in the end, they are both egoists, and that they are beings that can only do things the way they want. Looking back angrily at Isagi and telling him not to think that he can control Barou, Isagi looks completely in shock. But Nagi then comes by and asks if he can't just go with that, telling him that there's no reason for him to rely on Barou and that the two of them can win. Isagi says that he is right and wonders why he is obsessing over Barou so much. He wonders if it is to win this match or if it is because he thinks it's a waste to see Barou being so impatient, wondering once again what he needs to do to make a chemical reaction with Barou happen. Anyway, back to Nagi, who says that he wonders how Barou can keep up his king talk even though he isn't being useful at all, saying that if you don't admit your loss, then you won't earn the real feeling of losing. And with that, the game is back on with Reo being in control of the ball. Reo goes to Isagi and says that there is something he doesn't understand, and he asks why Nagi chose someone like him who's only good for direct shots. Isagi just asks how he is supposed to know, and asks if Reo even has some amazing ability. Reo says that he doesn't have anything like Isagi, Kunigami, or Chigiri, and that he might not have a special weapon like that, which is why he is so determined to win this match, and he then leaves Isagi behind as he passes him. Isagi is in awe of that, and says that Reo is good at changing the pace, and that he can't be stopped easily with basic abilities. Reo spots both Chigiri and Kunigami near the box, and he passes the ball as he tells Isagi that by winning, he will deny Isagi. The ball goes to Kunigami, who alongside Reo uses a 1-2 to get past Barou. Isagi, who is a bit behind, says that this is bad and that they are breaking apart, saying that when it comes to this team, Reo is definitely the core, explaining that with Chigiri on the right and Kunigami on the left, and using their specialties well, then a utility player that carries the balance of offense and defense. He looks at Reo and says that all of his parameters are top level, and says that his true essence is his all-rounder style with no shortcomings. After that, Reo passes the ball to Chigiri, but right then, Nagi comes in front of him and tells him that he won't let him pass anymore. Chigiri just laughs and tells him not to lump him together with Barou, as he isn't all about just pushing through, as he sends a pass to the center. Isagi says that he has to stop it and that it's going in front of Reo, but just then, someone comes screaming for everyone to move it, and it's none other than the hero Kunigami, who jumps up and heads the ball into the net. Isagi falls to the ground and asks if they are for real and that they are really strong, explaining that when they cooperate, their next moves could start coming from anywhere, and that against that perfectly balanced try-session, they are in a situation where they lost an arm called Barou, and that they can't win. But then, the puzzles around Isagi starts to spin, and he says that he shouldn't just think of a way to win with just him and Nagi, as he can't come up with a vision of winning against them like that, as they will end up scoring 1 or 2 goals and end up losing anyway. He tells himself to think of a way to turn things around. But then, as he is on the ground, it clicks for him, as he knows that he can't make Barou one of them, but that he instead needs to devour him, and that the adaptation that happens on the field is not to match with others. He says that he was wrong, and that he thought that he would find the answer if he played while matching up to Barou, but that was just control of others, while expecting them to change. But that's not what it means to adapt, and that he isn't playing soccer to learn how to adjust to others, as he is here to win, and in order to win, he will change the way he uses his abilities, telling himself not to expect anything from Barou, and instead of breathing life into plays, he will focus on devouring Barou, and that he will be able to control the field. Isagi then looks super pumped as he tells Nagi that the two of them will win. Nagi asks him if he is finally seeing the light, and Isagi tells him to pay attention to Isagi, and just like that, they restart the game with Isagi having the ball. He knows that the score is 3-1, and that they can't let them have the next goal. However, he notices that they are all cautious about Nagi's movements. Since Chigiri can't stop Nagi by himself, Reo is marking Isagi in a way to not let him pass Nagi, and even if he manages to, they're positioned as to be able to overwhelm him with numbers. Not to mention that Kunigami is clearly not too worried about Barou, and that you could also say that just doing that much is enough to stop him, as Barou is already useless when it comes to this match, which is the common belief everyone on the field has. But then, out of nowhere, Isagi starts to run towards Barou, and even Nagi is in shock. Barou tells him that it was a good decision. Meanwhile, Isagi just thinks to himself that Barou wants his pass. Kunigami also looks stressed, as he tells Barou that he won't let him go. But that's just what Isagi wants, as he wants Kunigami to get baited by Barou, as his real aim is Nagi, and as he is free he passes to Nagi. Reo thinks that he got them as he dribbled, as if he was about to pass to Barou, but his aim was to lower their focus on Nagi and create a pass course to him. Just as the ball is coming to Nagi, Reo screams at Chigiri not to jump, as that's what Nagi wants, so he doesn't jump, and Nagi gets annoyed by that. Reo compliments Chigiri and tells him to now get the ball. Chigiri then gets a smirk as he tells Nagi that when he isn't moving, he is powerless, but just then, Barou comes on his side and screams at Nagi to pass him before he loses the ball. Nagi looks over, but sees Kunigami guarding him easily. Reo thinks that they have got the whole team now, but Nagi then spots something, and he says that he sees, explaining that everyone is focusing on his play, and that he is in a space that only he can see, and that this is the moment where he bursts out of the darkness of their blind spot, which is what Isagi was waiting for, as we see him going behind Barou and using him. Nagi says that he sees it and passes over there. Kunigami then looks over and sees Isagi, and he is in shock as he says that in order for Isagi himself to get in front of the goal he used Barou as bait. Isagi's eyes then starts to light up as he thinks that no matter how much he tries to understand other people's hearts, people aren't able to change others. Which is why every time he has to change himself in order to change the world if nothing's going how you want it to. Thinking that if he can't see the light leading to a goal, then he has to become that light. He gets ready to strike the ball as he tells Barou to watch, as this is him adapting to Barou, and that the darkness that he created on the field, he will devour it and turn it into light. We then see Isagi scoring an awesome looking goal, and Barou looking to be in total despair. Isagi then screams out of happiness as he got his team their second goal, and everyone of Team Chigiri is stunned, and Reo says that this is Isagi Yoichi, the egoist that Nagi was chasing. Nagi and Isagi then high-five each other, and Nagi says that it's time to catch up. Isagi says that he is right before he looks over to Barou and tells him to keep playing like always and not to drag them down. Barou is confused, but Isagi tells him not to get in their way, and then pulls out the slur like he always does, but this just leaves Barou looking at him stunned. After that, as Isagi leaves, Barou thinks that he was used. He gets angrier and says that he will slaughter Isagi and that he will for sure improve as he is the king of the field. And then the match was back on with Reo having the ball but facing trouble right off the bat as Isagi goes to him. However, Reo notices that something is different with Isagi, as his aura is different than before, and Reo wonders just what Isagi can see. However, he thinks that as long as he doesn't know it's risky to match up against him from here on out, saying that both Chigiri and Kunigami also understands that, so they're being wary of this guy's movements and waiting for a pass, as right now the one to move forward shouldn't be Reo. So instead he passes to Chigiri, who right away sends it to Kunigami on the other side. But just then, Barou barges forward on Kunigami's side and thinks that he has to get this ball. Kunigami says that it's rare for Barou to be this desperate, and then both of them jump up to meet with the ball, and the one who heads it first is Barou. Barou really looks desperate as he says that it's his ball. After that, Nagi comes on his side and tells him to pass, but Barou tells him to be silent and that he would never pass anyone. Kunigami just laughs and says that he should be listening to Nagi, as right then Reo comes, and together with Kunigami, they double press Barou, which makes him lose the ball. However, fear not, as the ball rolls over on the grass and goes over to none other than Isagi. Everyone wonders why Isagi is there, and Reo thinks that the moment Barou stole the ball, he predicted the loss of the ball and positioned himself accordingly. But just then, Chigiri comes and tells Isagi that he won't let him. Isagi sees him right away, and without any second of hesitation, he sends over the ball to Nagi. Chigiri can't even believe it as he wonders just how cool-headed Isagi is. Anyway, Nagi gets the ball and scores with ease. After that, both Nagi and Isagi look at each other, both looking ecstatic, and Nagi says that they are caught up as they are even. Team Chigiri, who are still a bit in shock, but they all say that right now this battlefield is being controlled by Isagi and Nagi. After that, the game gets back on with Reo having the ball, but we then see Chigiri, who says that at this rate they will lose, so if they just use their abilities, they will be read and stopped. Reo can't do anything with the ball, so he sends it over to Chigiri, who thinks that just like Nagi said, his weakness is the moment of the trap. And after that, the man of the hour appears, as Nagi says that he already knows how he can stop Chigiri. Chigiri, however, is in his own brain, as he says that no matter how much speed he has, the moment you take the pass, you will slow down, and Nagi's aim is to stop his advance at that moment. But if that's the case, then it's do or die, as he traps the ball without slowing down, and instead just keeps on moving forward without stopping. Then, he will bounce it to where he is heading. Nagi is completely blown away, and Chigiri knows that he can do this while maintaining his top speed, and that he will let the ball run at the same speed. But just then, Barou comes from the side and tries to tackle down Chigiri, but Chigiri just tells him to try and stop him, as he isn't like Barou, as he will instead drag them to the world of top speed, calling it his new running, and saying that his new speed won't be controlled by Isagi and Nagi, and then he gets free and scores, which means that it's now 4-3. Nagi says that Chigiri went and evolved, and Isagi laughs, asking if this isn't awesome, and looks at Barou, who is crawling on the floor, asking if someone like that could ever become the #1 in the world, and this comment shocks everyone, but also greatly annoys Barou. We then get to his perspective as he wonders why he is on his knees, unable to steal even one goal, saying that he should be the king of the field, and we then get into his flashback where we learn that Barou was always the main actor on the field. In fact, he had so much talent that he could talk how he wanted, which we see here as he told his teammates to move for the sake of his goal, as when it came to soccer, he thought everyone besides himself was a supporting role. The other kids just praised him, and every time Barou heard that kind of praise from those around him, he thought, "These guys are so happy even though they're supporting roles," and just said, that he was the king. At this stage, Barou gave up on trying to understand others, and he became obsessed with just pursuing his own soccer, which worked as Barou became stronger, and at some point he noticed that the reason why he enjoyed soccer to this extent is not just to taste the feeling of being the king, and of course not because he loved to kick the ball either, as Barou simply wanted people like himself, and people who also bet their lives in soccer. He wanted to use his goals to drag these people off the seat of main actor, and he played soccer to feel that pleasure. This feeling is something that only the absolute strong can obtain, the ultimate exclusive joy, and Barou could very well understand that. Nagi then says that they will lose if Team Chigiri scores another goal, and Isagi says that he is right, and that they will try and catch up, but just then, Barou rushes up from the ground and goes to kick the ball right from kickoff. Barou prays for it to go in. Meanwhile, Team Chigiri can't believe that Barou shot it from kickoff, but anyhow the ball hits the post, and Barou screams out of frustration. Reo then screams at Kunigami to get the loose ball, and Kunigami is right on it. He even blocks of Nagi when he gets to the ball. However, Nagi is still giving him a bit of trouble, so Reo comes by his side and tells him to pass, as they can't lose the ball in front of the goal. But as Kunigami passes the ball, Reo can spot a wild Isagi running with all that he can towards it. Reo is firstly in pure amazement to how he read that pass, but he then looks angry and tells Isagi not to underestimate him, and that things won't go his way any further as he kicks away the ball. Isagi is a bit annoyed, but everyone then screams that it's a stray ball again, but this time it's heading towards Barou. Barou looks super pumped as he says that it finally came, the chance to make him the main actor. He looks forward and says that right now his shooting zone is free, and if he can carry it 2 or 3 meters in on touch, he will be able to get to his range and score. But just then, Chigiri comes behind him and tells him that he is 1 step behind. Chigiri looks fired up as he tells Barou that he is faster than he is. Barou is in shock, and he knows that if he takes the time to touch the ball, then Chigiri will catch up, and he wonders just what he should do. He gets pissed as he looks crushed, and says that he is still 1 step behind. But just then, Isagi appears in front of him, and Isagi is in the perfect position as he signals Barou to pass. Barou gets a scared facial expression, before he, without even realizing it himself, had passed the ball to Isagi. Barou then fell down to the floor and looked at the ball which was going to Isagi, and at that moment he was forced to realize that the main actor on the field was none other than Isagi. Isagi then scores the goal, which brings them even, but then he turns around and tells Barou that the pass was decent, and tells him to move for the sake of his goal. Barou looks honestly scared as he looks at the fired up Isagi, and for the first time, he felt the real feeling of losing. We then get into Barou's head as he says that he doesn't understand it himself, but that the ball was not passed, but made to pass. And in that moment, he says that he lost to Isagi. He thinks that he felt like what he had done to others so far had come back to him, and that Blue Lock's main actor was in fact Isagi, saying that soccer wasn't just a sport for him, as he wasn't the king in the end. We then get to Team Chigiri, where Chigiri says that Isagi is bad news. Kunigami says that whoever scores the next goal wins, and Reo says that they can't let Isagi have the ball. But Kunigami says that in the last play, they are starting with the ball. Reo puts his fist together and says that they need to score while absolutely not letting them steal the ball, and to think of losing the ball as losing the match. Chigiri says that if that's the case, then they should use his speed, and that his route has the highest chance of scoring a goal currently. They all agree, and Reo says that they are betting on the last attack and that they will win for sure. We then get to Isagi and Nagi, where Isagi says that Team Chigiri is starting with the ball and that they need to steal it first. Nagi agrees, but says that Chigiri is bad news, and even if he is marking him properly, if they are lined up horizontally, he will simply burst past, and if he does that trap from before, then his speed won't fall either, and if he brings it to that, then they will lose for sure. Isagi's pieces then start to get active as he says that they need to stop him before that. Nagi asks him if he came up with something, but Isagi just says that he will go against Reo, but Nagi then asks him to wait a bit, asking if they shouldn't share this with Barou, and with 3, it should be easier to guard, and if they steal the next one, it's over after all. Isagi is silent before saying that there's no point in telling a fallen king like that, and that the ending of the last play will be decided by him and Nagi alone, and Nagi says that he understands, and then the game is back on in full action. Reo goes to Isagi, and Reo notices right off the bat that Isagi is cautiously protecting the pass course to Chigiri more heavily than before, and that he's barely guarding them pass course to Kunigami, forcing Reo to look to pass there. Reo is annoyed, and says that he wanted to use Chigiri's speed to advance forward, but that he has no choice as their attack is being completely read, so instead he passes to Kunigami. Kunigami gets the ball, but also wonders what they should do. He thinks that a careless pass is too dangerous, and that at least he definitely can't let the ball be stolen. But he will never be able to go past Barou with his own skills, and he says that the risk is too big. So he passes the ball back to Reo. He thinks that it's no good, but then he switches up and asks himself what he's thinking about, and that he will beat Isagi, and that the road to Chigiri, he will open it in a one-on-one. Reo tries to draw Isagi closer and says that he just needs to open up the path for just a moment, and just then he sees it, the path to Chigiri. So he screams at Chigiri to run as he passes to him and thinks that he has won over Isagi. Chigiri starts running and tells them to leave it to him, but just then, something weird happens as Nagi starts to run in the opposite direction towards Rio's pass. Reo, who fell to the floor, looks sad and thinks that this can't happen. He says that Nagi knew that he couldn't win against Chigiri, and that he was betting on going midway and stealing it directly. After that, Isagi speaks up and compliments Reo's pass and tells him that they were waiting on this. Reo is in awe and wonders if this whole situation was in Isagi's mind, but he still believes that if Nagi can't reach it, then the ball will go over to Chigiri, and then it's game over. Isagi's eyes flare up as he tells Nagi to reach it, and just in the final moment, he manages to just in time reach the ball. The ball then flies high into the sky, and Reo screams that the ball is stray, but then, to everyone's shock, it lands in front of Barou, and Isagi comes by him and tells him to go. Barou thinks that he can understand that the field is shining for the sake of Isagi's goal, but he doesn't feel any frustration. Is it maybe because he isn't the main actor anymore? Suddenly, Nagi comes on his right side and tells him that he is also here, but Chigiri then tells them to wait up as he is also here, telling Nagi that he isn't getting away. We then get back to Barou, who says that he is feeling this for the first time and that these two are showing him a vision for the goal, thinking that if he acts as a supporting role now and passes, then they will win and he can become a piece of the coming goal. But the way he is right now, both Nagi and Isagi are way too bright, and Barou then understands that it's how the others must have been feeling, and that he can be saved by this sense of defeat, and that he will be saved from this feeling of losing if he entrusts the goal to an absolute striker. They can win with his pass, and wonders if this is how a team is, and if this is the so-called chemical reaction, calling it the true purpose for a loser in a supporting role. But just as he is about to pass, he feels something holding him back, and he stopped his motion. He thinks that this is a crossroad and that there is no reason for this. But if he passes here, then his intuition is telling him that everything will end. Wonder what his future is beyond this pass. But he then realizes it, as it's nothing but escapism for people with broken dreams. For the sake of not denying their lives so far, he then sees his future, where he is sitting in his room drinking beer, while watching Isagi playing for Japan, and he says that this is the excuse of the losers, and that a future like that isn't something that he wants to live through. We then get back into the game, where he does a chop feint to get behind Kunigami. Everyone is wondering what Barou will decide to do, and Reo says that if he passes to Isagi, it's over, but he wonders if he will try to dribble past him and charge in. He looks closely at his feet before saying that the motion is here and goes to try and stop Barou, but just then, Reo gets hit with one of his chop feints, and Reo says that this time he used Isagi as the bait, and he wonders if Barou is experiencing an awakening at this point in the game. After that, Kunigami screams at Chigiri that Barou won't pass anymore, but we then get to Barou, who says that he sees it, saying that he knows because he knows how defeat feels, and that this isn't a route to entrust the main actor, and that even if uncertain, this still exists for the sake of his goal. After that, Barou gets behind Isagi and uses him as bait to hide his next action, and Barou says that this time it's his turn to devour Isagi, which he does, as thanks to Isagi, he gets behind Chigiri, and Isagi is looking at this in shock, saying that Barou's awakening is climbing by devouring each other, and that this is the chemical reaction between Barou, Nagi, and Isagi. Barou is then going towards the goal at an insane speed, as he screams that he won't end up as a supporting role, and if Isagi and Nagi are the main actors, then he will devour that light and be the villain if he has to. And just then, he lets out his shot, which Isagi calls amazing, and Nagi welcomes back the king as we see the shot curving right into the top corner of the goal, and with that, giving Team Isagi the win, and Barou ends it by screaming out of happiness as he once again becomes the true king.